Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Brad.
This week we get to play my favorite song, and that's when libertarians flip-flop overnight into being big government advocates when it benefits them specifically.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Look, it's a hell of a week.
Yeah.
There's nothing like a bank failure to really
gin up the socialism among the right, I'll tell you.
yeah. We need to save them. Do we? Are you sure? It's socialism for me, not for me. Get the fuck out of here. So, it's nothing like a bank failure to really kind of give you to really kind of throw up all the dust and see where people really are. Like how they really feel about themselves versus others. So we'll obviously get right into the Silicon Valley Bank issue. We're also going to talk about a very bad situation that could potentially be coming back to the southern border. The level of hypocrisy of the right wing saying how they want to protect children and doing literally the opposite. Because of course,
in every regard.
Yeah. And then we're going to watch a person die on TV for 40 seconds. That's a very simple question. You probably already know what it is if you follow this stuff. But it's good. It's good. It's
like good. I said, the hero of the story, if you're a longtime listener of the show, may surprise you.
Yeah, look. All I can say is I'm a fair person. Yeah. I call it balls and strikes. That's just who I am. Look, sometimes it even pains me, to be honest. Okay, sometimes it does.
I mean, one might say that, Jay, that you don't operate in bad faith. But like I said, we'll cover more of that later in the show. So
that's right. And more news on insulin prices. So look forward to that. And then a special. Don't read This Week in Stupid Story, Brad.
I already know the story, so too bad. But it's still hilarious. Still, yeah. And you know what? The points he makes are actually logical and sane. But we'll talk about it later.
Which is
we'll talk about it later.
It's ironic. Yes. All right, so let's jump right into it. Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank fail. Why don't you take this?
I will.
Because I know you're a little bit better on the details. I have some thoughts on it as well, but I'm going to let you run with this one. Go for it.
Yeah, so last week there was some hokey pokey going on with two medium-sized banks here in the old US of A. Silicon Valley Bank, which is a bank that caters almost exclusively to tech startups out in California, and Signature Bank, which is a smaller bank, but notably caters favorably to folks who love themselves some cryptocurrency, which I find really funny. So it kind of started with the details are I'm not 100% on the sequence of events, but long story short, SVB had some long-term treasury bonds that they had a lot of their money tied up in. And the thing with long-term bonds is that they're very safe, but you also can't touch the money until the bond matures. And so that money is basically tied up. And a bunch of folks took out large sums of money from this bank that they had deposited. And they issued a statement saying, hey, just so everybody knows, we're going to be issuing $2.5 billion of new stock in the company to help cover some shortfalls that we're going through. And they put this statement out there as a measure of confidence. And a bunch of fucking libertarian finance bros, apparently spearheaded by Peter Thiel, of all people, said, we got to go get our money out of this bank, and we got to get it now. And we had ourselves a good old rootin' tootin' bank run on SVB. And all of a sudden, they were kind of just left holding the bag and realized, oh shit, we don't have enough money to cover these deposits that are coming out. The issue with Signature is kind of similar, but I don't know the full breadth of details behind Signature Bank. But basically, that happened, that folded just like 2 days after the bank run on SVB, essentially. And I would assume there's some level of domino effect there where a lot of folks also pulled money out of Signature, and all of a sudden, like, they were just like, fuck, like, we are kind of screwed right now. So we are going to have to close down as well. So this, of course, caused a ton of panic in the financial world, because they were just kind of waiting for, do we have bank runs? You had libertarians out clutching pearls so hard that they would break in their hands on Twitter on Friday about how we can't trust financial institutions. What's the government going to do? Like the government has to make us whole. We're going to undermine confidence in the financial system in America if the government doesn't step up and make all of us whole.
If only the government would help us. Really?
Right. Yeah. Really? Meanwhile, these are the same idiots that lobby so hard against financial regulation in this country. But of course, again, as soon as the money's gone, they're the first ones in line with their hand out to make sure that they're good to go. So people may or may not be familiar. Every bank in the country is covered under the FDIC. And the FDIC is basically there to say, hey, if this bank collapses, if this bank goes under, the depositors,
if this bank is robbed, if the bank is robbed,
if they don't have the money.
Yeah. By the way, that's why if you're in the middle of like a bank robbery and you're sitting there and they're like, "Give me your money," just give it to them.
Like, you're going to get it back.
You're going to get it back. No, don't. I learned that in movies. Knock it off.
So all of a bank's deposits are insured up to $250,000. So if you have deposited $250,000 or less, and that money goes away, bank collapses, gets robbed, whatever the case may be, the government will make you whole on that. That's right. The issue is that with SVB specifically, this is a bank that had billions of dollars from certain accounts held up in the bank. And the FDIC does not protect anything past $250,000. Now, the Biden administration was very quick to come out and say, look, like, we're going to make people whole. And of course, the first thing that the knee-jerk reaction from everybody, both on the left and the right, said, oh my God, I can't believe you're bailing out these banks. First of all, it's not a bailout. Okay. Because SVB and Signature are both going away. Like, it's a bailout if you give the money to the company so that they can keep operating.
Right.
In this case, this is making sure that the people who had money deposited in the company are going to get their money back.
Right. Like, that's not fair to them to just have it destroyed because these guys were. I mean, one of the big things is they were also gambling with these people's money, right? Like, which is a common. I don't want to say that as if that's not a common practice. It is, right? Like, and banks only have like a fraction of the amount that you actually deposited, and then they basically take the rest of it and throw it, and bet it on a horse or whatever.
I mean, essentially, yes.
Essentially, that's what it is.
It's pretty much what they're doing. So right? It's so funny how every fucking bank, like, so like, I think of Casino Royale. And I think of the fact that the whole plot was kicked off by Lashif taking the money from this like African warlord and then selling stock short. And then when he got fucked by James Bond, like, that's what triggered the tournament. And they're like, wow, he's a villain. He's so evil. I can't believe he would do this. This is just what the banks do every day. like it's literally just what happens. So it's not a bailout. Like, that's first and foremost number one. It's not a bailout. But I think what people are also saying, and I think this is more right, is fuck these companies. Like, I don't give a shit if they're not going to get their money. Like, yeah, like, make normal people whole, but fuck these people. Like, yeah, give them their $250,000 and then kick rocks. Like, it's your fucking fault that you put your money in a, not an unstable bank, but like, I guess a smaller bank. I don't know what the rationale is, but here's the thing. In a vacuum, sure. Yeah, fuck those people. Like if this existed in a vacuum, if it had no knock-on effects outside of it, I'd say good riddance. Like, fuck those people. They can afford to lose it. It's not that big of a deal. Fuck off. But we don't live in a vacuum. We live in a world where things have domino effects. And if you did and if you did not make steps to make these folks whole, then you could see companies lay off employees. you could see more large companies all of a sudden distrust financial institutions and go to pull deposits out of other banks, which could trigger more bank runs and more panic and stuff like that. Or just general lack of innovation. Like some of these smaller companies don't have the capital to be able to withstand that sort of a loss, and they might have to just go, belly up and shutter. So while I understand people's fuck 'em approach, and certainly part of me internalizes that as well, it's just not a realistic outcome. Now,
it isn't.
Biden also said that the burden for making these folks whole is not going to be on taxpayers. And the reason why is because they're going to sell the assets for these banks, and they're hoping that by itself will cover folks. If not, there is an FDIC fund that basically people are paid out of, that the banks pay into. So like taxpayers aren't paying into those funds directly. Those are fees charged to banks by the FDIC to cover that stuff. And if there's a shortfall in that fund, like if they have to empty out a lot of it, then the government will just charge the banks more money. Now that could and probably will be passed down to consumers inevitably, because that's just how this shit works.
Yeah, he says no, but I don't see how they prevent that technically. It'll be interesting.
Right.
So I don't know. Look, my attitude towards this entire thing is, playing fast and loose with people's money is a common banking thing. But at the same time, playing fast and loose with this has gotten worse because of deregulation, right? Like that is obvious. There's a number of Republicans who are pretending that, and we'll talk about the Republican response, which is just bizarre. You deregulate, their ability to basically you remove the lines to say that how much you can gamble of people's deposits and everything else, right? In the stock market. When you remove those regulations or you lessen those regulations, of course they're going to do it, right? They're not using their money to do it. They're going to use our money. They're going to use these particular, small companies' money and things like that. You are only creating a situation where more of this will happen. You have to put these regulations in place. I get it. It's boring. It's not interesting. It's not fun to say, well, you got to stay within this box. I understand that. And I understand why you would want them to gamble, because, hey, maybe that gamble works and you make a shit ton of money, and that's, the sort of capitalist mindset. But guess what? When it goes wrong, it goes really wrong.
Right. And the people that are affected aren't the banks. It's the people who are trusting the banks to look out for their interests. And a lot's been made. So one of the big talking points in the wake of this is back in 2010, in the aftermath of the financial crisis, a big piece of legislation got passed through Congress that many people have probably heard of, called Dodd-Frank, which was a big reform to banking regulations in this country. And there's a variety of different regulations that were included in this, but one of the most notable ones is that at the time of Dodd-Frank, they passed a law that said, hey, if your bank holds more than $50 million or $50 billion, in deposits, then you have to be subjected to regular stress tests on your systems and on your liquidity to make sure that if something were to go catastrophically wrong, that you'd be being responsible to your customers. Right. And that worked really well for a while. And Republicans, doing what Republicans do, said, oh, that's way too restrictive. That hits too many small banks. That hits too many banks that shouldn't be subjected to those regulations. And so in 2018, when they had full control of the White House and both houses of Congress, they altered Dodd-Frank to roll back that stress test provision from $50 billion to $250 billion. Now, we can't say for sure if extra scrutinizing would have prevented this from happening to SVB and to Signature. But I just want to point out the fact that SVB was a bank that held just over $200 billion in assets, so they were not subjected to these tests. And SVB was, at the time, the 16th largest bank in the country. And if you're telling me that the 16th largest bank in the country shouldn't be subject to additional scrutiny,
that's insane. Yeah,
what the fuck? Like, that's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Look, man, I don't know. Like I find it actually remarkable that we treat something as grossly serious as banking with such kid gloves.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a thing where you're looking at these guys and you're like, listen, I get some like, I actually I don't get it. I was getting ready to give like space for bullshit, and I realized that's ridiculous. No bank taking other people's money should not be set up to have extreme regulations on top of it. Extreme. Like, it should be like, listen, hey, but we're just a mom and pop bank. That's cool. Mom and pop are still putting their money in your bank, dude. You can't just do whatever the fuck you want. So
right.
I just don't understand allowing people to fuck other people over and fuck over their businesses and their money and things like that. And just be like, don't worry about regulations. Why would you, even if you said, hey, man, like, it's not even like conservatives at this point aren't even for, hey, let's like do logical regulation. They've basically turned into laissez-faire fucking like financial thought processes. It's like, just let it just go. But you can't. Like, read a basic history book. When you do that, everything falls apart. You cannot just let the financial system go as it would, because people will cheat, they will steal, and they will ruin the system.
I mean, we literally saw it happen 15 fucking years ago. And the good news is that the good news is that this is likely not a harbinger of a repeat of 2008, because the financial crisis in 2008, very, very different set of circumstances. Like the reason that happened is because many banks were loaning money to people that they knew should not be getting loans.
But and is that different? Because I feel like right now we're in a situation where we're giving money. Like, how confident are they? How confident are they when they're giving this money to these small businesses that are, not necessarily generating like these Silicon Valley like startups? How confident are they really? Right? So I don't know. Right? I don't know that it's that wild. Right? I don't know that it's like that wildly different.
I think it is, just because Silicon Valley investors have other sources of revenue. Like, they're not completely reliant on banks. Like, they have venture capitalists that'll come in and throw money at them and stuff like that. And a lot of businesses can help get them through tougher financial straits. Like, they're like a tech startup in California is way more likely to seek VC funding than to try to get a loan from a bank.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Just because it's a little bit easier and they have someone to sell to. I still think that there's a lot more that can be done to tighten up regulations. Like banks should be required to have a high percentage of liquidity covering deposits at all times. Like, I understand that number is never going to be 100%, because banks are still going to be for-profit businesses, and you need capital to grow and to evolve and to make things better. So I get that it can't, like, they have to make money somewhere. And if they don't make money from investing, then it's going to be through the consumer, which would be way worse, I feel like. Right. But we just need to tighten up. We need to take another look at it and reevaluate, because this can't happen. This can't happen. And because if something like this were to happen again,
happen again.
Right. Like 2 weeks from now, another bank, like another mid-sized bank goes under for whatever reason, we're going to have a real fucking problem, because there are going to be a lot of people that have a lot of money that all of a sudden have very little trust in the institutions that are in charge, and they'll be fine, but regular people will not be.
Will not be fine. No. I want to play something for you, Brad. I was feverishly trying to find this while you were talking. You made the point of this feels very different than the financial collapse 15 years ago. I'm going to play something for you, and you tell me if it sounds that different.
Okay, hi. My firm's thesis is pretty simple. Wall Street took a good idea, Louis Ranieri's mortgage bond, and turned it into an atomic bomb of fraud and stupidity that's on its way to decimating the world economy.
How do you really feel?
I'm glad you still have a sense of humor. I wouldn't if I were you. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I have no problem telling someone they're wrong.
Bastards just issued a
Now,
press
it's my
release.
passion.
We already got another.
But for the first time in my
is
life,
39 last
it's not so enjoyable. We live in an era of fraud in America, not just in banking, but in government, education, religion, food, even baseball. What bothers me isn't that fraud is not nice or that fraud is mean. It's that for 15,000 years, fraud and short-sighted thinking have never, ever worked. Not once.
Jesus, we're at
Eventually,
37. We're at 37.
people get caught. Things go
It's fucking
south.
plummeting, man. It's fucking plummeting.
When the hell did we forget all that? I thought we were better than this. I really did. And the fact that we're not doesn't make me feel all right and superior. It makes me feel sad.
Every time I fucking hit refresh, it's dropping, man. It always goes down.
And as fun as it is to watch pompous, dumb Wall Streeters be wildly wrong, and you are wrong, sir, I just know that at the end of the day, average people are going to be the ones that are going to have to pay for all of this. Because they always,
32?
always do.
So there you go. If you've never seen The Big Short, you fucking should. You should. It is a must-watch movie. Steve Carell puts on a hell of a performance. But that's about the collapse of Bear Stearns. Mm-hmm. The same points he makes there are the exact same points that you could make here.
Yeah.
They're no different. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it is different. And look, I hate to say this. I really do, because I need the dollar to stay strong for my own personal reasons. I don't think SVB is going to be the last one you see. And I think it's...
I really hope not.
I hope it is the last one, the last bank to fucking fall off a cliff, but I don't think so. Because we still are in this mindset that one party is like, hey man, bank regulation's probably a good fucking idea, and the other one's like, laissez-faire till we die, motherfucker. And that's where we are. And we're stuck at an impasse because one party quite literally will not take this shit seriously. Because, like he says in that clip, at the end of the day, is regular people who are going to pay for this shit. It's not your buddies. It's not your fucking Wall Street buddies who are going to pay for it. It's not your donors. You don't give a fuck about these people. These are fucking guppies in the ocean of your fucking donors. Like, that doesn't mean anything to them. And I don't think things are going to change. And that's a real fucking...
Not to fuel your cynicism here, but the cherry on top of the sundae is that Barney Frank, literally one of the two authors of the Dodd-Frank bill, was on the board of Signature.
Oh, God.
So...
Oh, no. It's not good. That's just not good. That's not good. And I like Barney Frank, man. Like, I think that guy was great.
Now, to be fair, though, to be completely fair, Jay and I really haven't gotten to the crux of this issue. Like, we've been talking about, banking regulations, and we've talking about, banks behaving irresponsibly and this, that, the other thing. But we haven't talked about what's likely the actual reason that these two banks failed.
I hate to say it. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. I think they might be right, Brad. I think it might be wokeism that has destroyed SVB. Not banking regulation or poor banking habits or the old-fashioned run on a bank. No. It's wokeism. I'm sorry, what? According to Republicans, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer called SVB, quote, one of the most woke banks. What the fuck is a woke bank? Because it's ESG type policies, environmental, social, and corporate governance driven investing that is embraced by billion-dollar asset managers and scorned by conservatives as of late. Okay, hold on, Brad. Let's rewind for a second.
Let's.
What was the name of the person you said who led the bank run when SVB came out and said, "Hey, we're."
You mean ultra conservative donor Peter Thiel? That's
Right,
the same
right,
Peter
right.
Thiel who's trying to put his whole who's like basically trying to supplant the Koch brothers to be the godfather of Republican politics in the United States. That Peter
Right.
Thiel.
Why would he invest in such a woke bank? Do you think maybe Peter Thiel didn't know that it was a woke bank? He was confused. He was unaware.
The only thing I could figure is that he didn't know these things. I don't remember who the writer was, and I wish I did because I would love to shame him by name on the show. But there was a writer in the Wall Street Journal who wrote an op-ed.
It was Andy, but go ahead.
Piggybacking on this point about how because the board of SVB had, or maybe it's executives. I think it's they had one black executive and a gay executive, and this somehow contributed to the success. And he even says the line, and I'm paraphrasing. Now, I'm not saying if 12 straight white men were executives that this wouldn't have happened, but I am saying that by not concentrating, like it opens the door for questions. When I'm just like, really, like that's your fucking approach,
Dude. Conservatives are insane. Like
they are.
Their literal argument now is like you had a black person and a gay person on your board. I mean that's pretty woke. Is it that they exist? They're bankers. Spoiler alert. That black dude's probably conservative.
He's
probably
ask him who he voted for. Ask him who he voted for.
He's probably like, whoever gets my fucking 401k.
Yeah.
Fucking
Who'd you
roll,
hey, did you vote to recall Gavin Newsom, black executive at SVB?
He's like
did you vote for Larry Elder? That's right.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, Larry Elder's black. That's why I voted. I'm like, yeah, right. Okay, buddy. Get the fuck out of here. Wokeism? I am convinced, and you as a listener will also be convinced of this, that conservatives have no idea what it means. It's just for them. It's I don't want to simplify this succinctly, but I think it's just their way of just being like, it's not white people. It's not straight white guys. That's it. Anything that is not focused directly on straight white men, that does not put straight white men on Front Street as their focus, is woke to them. And by the way, also straight white men who are conservative, right? Like they have to also agree with them. They can't be a straight white guy who's like, no, I'm cool with treating people like, reasonable humans. Like, no. That's also wokeism. You have to treat people like shit. You can't be black, Latin, Jewish. Sorry, Ben Shapiro. Like, you can't be any of that shit. You gotta look like Chris Hemsworth, be from America, but also not have the same thought process as Captain America, right? You have to have the thought process of Donald Trump, but look like Chris Evans, right? In those movies, that's the anti-wokeism for them. Like, it's ridiculous.
I'm so annoyed. So again, we said it last episode. We've talked about it many times before how Republicans will just take these buzzwords and just destroy them, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that woke is going to be the end all be all of this phenomenon. Like woke is so prevalent in their fucking jargon right now. I can't even remember half of the other terms that they've ruined at this point.
Trickle down
except
economics,
for
socialism.
Yeah.
Communism, because socialism, communism, same thing. Read a book. Pro-life. I would argue they've ruined that one because it doesn't mean what they think it means. Groomer. That was.
Oh,
groomer,
yeah, there you go.
They tried to. I feel like wokeism was on its way up, and it was taken over. Then a couple of Republicans didn't get the memo, so they tried to make groomer it was fetch for them, they were trying to make it happen, it didn't happen, especially because of their policies that are more groomer oriented. And they just keep getting busted for child pornography. Weird. So groomer was that was a big one. They thought they were going to make that one stick. It didn't stick. But I'm
gonna appeal to our listeners. If we could get a list of all the fucking words in the last 5 or 6 years that Republicans could just completely change the meaning of through their constant misuse, I would love to know it.
Yeah,
like
we'll read it live on the show
Republicans
next week.
Republicans are basically like the people who used ironic incorrectly and then caught on, and then ironic was used so incorrectly that like Merriam-Webster finally just fucking gave up, and they're like, fine, we'll add another definition of ironic that means the opposite of what ironic means, essentially. So.
No, it's, you know what it is? It's when people say literally, right? They're like, I'm literally dying. Like, that's not what that word means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which you know, I'm laughing, but I'm probably guilty of that one more than anything.
Yeah, no, I definitely have
else.
done it. It's annoying because it sounds
Yes.
so correct.
Yes.
We're literally idiots. So yeah, it's see, used correctly. But to call a bank woke,
How?
I
would
don't
argue
know.
I would argue that of all the institutions in American society, banks are probably like the least possible woke that you could be compared to like almost anything else. I struggle to think of an institution except for like the NRA that could be less woke than a bank could be.
I mean, the funny thing is, the NRA used to kind of be woke. They kind of were. They kind of were before the 70s. And it was like, no, everyone doesn't need a gun, but if you're going to have one, here are classes to take, and we'll train you and be safe, and, we'll be a regulated militia, and we'll be a reasonable. And then, they were like, wait a minute, why don't we give everyone a gun, and then we'll make a ton of money?
Yeah. But banks fucking, the goal of banks, the job of banks is to make as much fucking money as humanly possible, regardless of who it destroys at the end of the day. We don't care. We just want all the money. We just need it. Look at all the space we have in our vaults. We need to fill it with money.
Yeah, this is our goal. I mean, there are small sort of community banks that solely aim to they're not there to maximize profits. They're solely there to help small businesses and things like that. But those are, one, super rare. Two, they're barely banking institutions at that point, right? They're just you put in $5, we just hold that $5. We're not even gambling with it. We're just holding that $5 for you. We might get a little bit of extra money here or there, and that's solely to help more people like you. It's not designed to be kind of for profit, which is what banks generally are. So, the idea of a bank being woke is stupid. And if you say that, you're stupid. Stop saying that.
It's incredibly stupid when you just look at fucking basic logic. SVB bought a shitload of fucking bonds when interest rates were in the toilet because the bonds were incredibly cheap or they were valuable and interest rates were in the toilet. So they're just like, this is a great thing to invest your money in. And then interest rates started going up, so the price of bonds started going fucking down. And when you put your fucking money in long-term yields and the value starts dropping, you fucking panic.
Yep.
But at the same time, that just shows to me the incompetence of the executives at SVB, because if you could not see as a banker, because I could see it as a dude, that interest rates being low was a temporary fucking condition in the American society, and that they were going to balloon back up at some point. What the fuck are you even doing in this industry? Let me be an executive at SVB. Pay me fucking $500,000 a year to make simple decisions.
Right, but the difference here is, Brad, they weren't interested in long-term goals. They were interested, much like that clip from The Big Short. Fraud has never worked because you are looking for maximizing money on short-term investments. That's not how a bank is supposed to fucking work. You're not a fucking day trader, dude. You're not trying to let's just make a buck. That's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, and the irony is all those fucking executives who are now going to be out of jobs are probably going to land on their feet just fine somewhere else, despite the fact that they have a proven record of, hey, you guys fucked up hardcore. Mm-hmm. Somehow they will fail upward. Some other big financial institution will pay them a shitload of money because they have bona fides, I guess, and to make the same dumb fucking decisions.
Yeah, they'll go work for Jamie Dimon or Goldman Sachs or whatever. Like, yeah, they will absolutely. So it's ridiculous. But the Republicans saying like this is a woke bank, like we're just saying anything at this point. Like I don't I don't know. Did they have a trans teller at the bank? Is that why they're woke? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Tommy Vitor said something that I think is 100% correct, and he wasn't joking when he said this. Like, he was being dead serious, and I don't think enough people are taking it to heart. If you're a politician, if you're Ron DeSantis, and you're going out there and you're going to run for president, and you're going out there saying these banks failed because they were too woke, that should be a disqualifying statement because you were obviously too stupid to hold any elected office, much less the office of president.
That is correct.
If that's something you're going to literally say in public.
Like, okay, let's. I can't believe I'm doing this. Let's take Ron DeSantis at his word.
Okay, great.
I don't like to do that because that guy's a proven fucking liar. But let's say that Ron DeSantis is like, look, he's president.
Mm-hmm.
Gross, right? He's president and SVB fails, right? Like let's say this hadn't happened, but it happens under his administration. And for the same reasons that he's saying that it failed. Mm-hmm. Oh, it failed because it was woke. They had a black guy working there. Fucking terrible idea, right? Should all be white men. And a gay. Get out of here, right? It's woke. What do you do then? Right? Like, okay, the argument of wokeism and all this other shit, we clearly think that's stupid and you're dumb for fucking saying that. But okay, what does that actually mean? Does that mean that you don't certify the money or backstop the money of people who invested there? Do you just fuck them and go, we shouldn't invest in a woke bank? Right? Do you let the spillover effect happen where then it domino effects and hits a bunch of other banks because you don't want to do anything because it's a woke bank? Right? Like, well, does it mean anything? Does it mean anything?
The good news is in this specific example is that fortunately, it's not up to Ron DeSantis, President DeSantis, what we would do. The FDIC operates independently of the executive branch of the government. Now, the problem is that if Ron DeSantis were to appoint a dumbass as like FDIC chair, and that dumbass decided not to do anything because he knows Ron DeSantis wouldn't want him to do anything to help in this situation, that would be fucking catastrophic.
Is it impossible? No, I don't think it's impossible because I think these guys are so. Well, here's the thing with Ron DeSantis: he's a fucking liar, right? Mm-hmm. And not in that like regular politician Republican way of lying. Like, he's a liar in the aspect of he tells people that he's going to do these big things and he doesn't really do them. He likes to just kick small people in the head. Like that's kind of his thing because he's fundamentally weak. So I would say that he probably wouldn't do shit and he'd back the bank up or whatever. But at the same time, like, going out there and making this bullshit rhetoric doesn't do anything for anybody. Mm-hmm. Would he hire somebody in the FDIC who would fuck over these banks? Maybe he would. It's dangerous as fuck to do that. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of times when these guys get into power and someone goes, hey, here's the reality. I'm glad you ran your bullshit mouth. Here's the reality of how the world really works. It's amazing how, for the most part, they all kind of move in line and go, all right, we can't let fucking banks fail. Like, that's crazy.
Right, and ultimately because doing so would damage the economy, and you don't want to do that when you're president because you get fucking blamed for that when you're holding the bag. So
that is correct.
Yeah, because unfortunately for Republicans, the people who are affected by this don't really give a shit if you think the bank is woke or not. They care that they don't have their fucking money. Like that's ultimately what they give a shit about at the end of the day. So
exactly. All right, let's talk about a story that really kind of pisses me off.
Can't wait.
Oh, boy. U.S. is said to be considering reinstating detention for migrant families. This would be bringing back the Trump era stopping families at the border. Situation.
It would bring back half of it. So notably,
it's not exactly the same.
They're not going to be doing. They don't want to do the family separation, which is what the Trump administration was famous for spearheading. And got them the most scrutiny, arguably. But still, not great.
Right. They're not separating families, thankfully. I like when this came up, I was like, there's no way they're separating families. Like that's crazy. One, that wasn't necessary when Trump did it. He just did it to be fucking vicious and mean. Like that. Yeah. Like you can
well, they did it. They did it to try to
deter.
Well, they did it to try. Right. They said they did it as a deterrent. I think you're right. The first time is that they just did it to be vicious and mean. So
yeah, because they don't give a fuck about anybody who's not white.
Right.
Right. They were like, oh, are we breaking up Latin families? We give a fuck. Oh, those people can have another kid. Like they don't give a fuck. Like they just don't care. Which to me is like the most. Like the fact that conservatives, by the way, were like, oh yeah, no, this makes sense, dude. You guys are supposed to be the religious party. How the fuck is that okay? Like, I know.
To follow the teachings of Christ, you got to actually read the fucking book. I mean, come on, Jay. We got time to sit there and fucking read the Bible? Get the fuck out of here. I mean, they don't. What are you doing?
They don't really read as it is, if we're being honest. But if they did, they wouldn't believe
how long that fucking thing is, man. It's in fucking like old language. Like it's really hard to read, Jay. Like I mean, maybe
there's a lot of early chapters like Job begot fucking Steve, and Steve begot Susan, and Susan and Barry got together, and they begot Micah, or whatever the fuck. Like that's a lot, yo. That's like 10 pages. It feels like.
Yeah.
Like I'm not reading that. Like just get to
can we get it in pop-up form? Like can we just get Noah's Ark and all this other stuff?
Yeah,
and
just get to the good stuff.
The Red Sea. Like come on, let's move this.
Where's the point where the aliens come down? They make the pyramids, all the cool shit.
I'm pretty sure that was Stargate. So
yeah, that's it. Look, that's in the Bible. A lot of people don't know that's in the Bible. It's in the later chapters. Yeah, thou shalt not disrespect Kurt Russell. A lot of people don't read your own. You don't even read your own book. It's in there. So yeah, I think this is a trial balloon. I think it's kind of like, we're thinking about doing it. And people go, get the fuck out of here with that. And you're like, okay, we're just going and pull this back.
Just kidding. I find this to be so incredibly lazy. And it's not just lazy on the part of Homeland Security, by the way, and CPD. Like it's not just lazy on their parts, even though it's very lazy on their parts. It's lazy on Congress's part too. We need full-fledged immigration reform in this country.
Yeah,
we've
needed it for fucking 20 years.
We needed it for a long time. Now, of course, we have one party that controls 1/3 of the levers necessary to do that has zero interest in fucking doing it, and we don't have enough people in the Senate anyway to get anything like that passed, regardless. But that's what you need, because the problem is not. The problem is not necessarily like where are we going to station these families. The problem is we don't have an apparatus in place to deal with the people that are coming over as it is. That's the problem. And so the solutions that we're coming up with are these fucking easy, like fucking Flex Seal ass solutions. Like let's fucking slap the Flex Seal in the fucking tub of water and just keep this shit from going out. Woo!
I love easy. That. I love in Brad's mind, he refers to the immigrant issue as just water pouring through a hole in a giant vat. Wow. You heard it here first, kids.
To hear Republicans tell it, that's exactly what's happening. They're all bringing fentanyl with them as well. Sons of bitches. So.
Just loaded with kilos of fentanyl as they crack. Like, what are you talking about? Everyone knows that's from China. Come on.
Right. So all we're doing is just fucking, basically trying to right. Like you got a ship taking on water and you're trying to fucking, fix it with Scotch tape. Like that's essentially what you're trying to do. So when you need to fucking figure out what the fuck is going on.
Okay, I think that is completely fair, and I actually don't disagree with you at all. The question is, what does immigration reform look like? Right? We have a continued issue at the border. Right? Conservatives are like weirdly partially right about this. Like there is a concern at the border of people coming in. Right, like there are lots of people coming to the border and being like, "Hey, man, I'm seeking asylum, or I'm just trying to fucking get in, whatever." What do you see as real helpful immigration reform? Does that mean increasing the amount of people who can get asylum? How do you keep that number from going crazy? Like, Like, what does that number look like? If you have a number, that's cool. I'd be interested to hear.
So honestly, I think one start that you could do is you basically need to create, like, I don't know what you would call them, but you need to essentially create a shitload of like federal judgeships.
Right.
And you need to essentially create like asylum courts. You do. Like because the method of doing this now, like they don't have anyone who's permanently assigned to hear asylum cases. Like federal judges go basically on rotation to hear asylum cases to help out with this. But the number of judges that are hearing these cases at any given time is woefully inadequate, so that you have a backlog of like 18, 24, 30 months in asylum claims. And that ultimately is the problem, because we're not processing these claims in a expedient manner. So then that begets the problem of, well, what do we do with these folks while we're waiting to process their claims? And I think that's the first thing you start with, is you have to have a system in place that gets people in and processed, and their claim heard and decided on in a short window. Like it like really, you have to have a system where it's not more than 30 days. Like that ultimately needs to be the goal at the end of the day. And I think by doing that, you solve a lot of the problems that we're seeing right now. Now, you still run into the problem of, well, where do you house people while they're waiting to hear claims, and how do you house them? And, and obviously, like, we want to make sure we do that in a humane way. Like, putting them in what amounts to glorified detention centers is not the way. Like, build fucking hotels. I don't care. Like subsidize hotel companies to have fucking like asylum hotels in these places. Make a whole fucking complex, like, just like down there. You're creating jobs. You're, like all this shit's fucking happening.
The local Hyatt will be fine with it.
Yeah,
we will build these. I mean, so I think the asylum courts make sense. America has a lot of space. I know that conservatives pretend like they don't, but I feel like, have you guys been to your own states? Nobody lives there. Nobody lives there. They don't live there, dude. Wyoming's got like 9 people, yo. Montana has a lot of space. Like a lot of space.
It's like the fucking fourth biggest state, third lowest population.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking huge, and no one lives there. You could benefit, right, from having some people there. I mean, look, it's like a lot of European countries during like, during the Syrian war. They're like, oh shit, can you please come here? Because we have 9 old people living in this town, and everyone's dying, and we need people to work here, right? Like, otherwise, this town.
And that's the other thing that's very funny to me is we have like a population issue that's slowly building up in this country because people just aren't having kids at the same rate they were. Now, a host of other reasons why that is, but at the same time, you're not just going to force people to have kids. I mean, Texas can propose all the property tax benefits.
Yeah, that's not a reason to have 10 children.
Yeah, that's still not going to get people humping to procreate.
The juice is not worth the squeeze there.
No, not in this case, not in that case. So, if you want to keep your population numbers strong, if you want to keep your economy strong, you want to make sure that jobs are still being filled and stuff like that. You got to get people from somewhere.
You got to get them in. You got to get them in. Look, here's the thing. And look, I realize, I get it. Like, the older I get, the more I don't have to agree with people's perspectives, but I can at least sometimes see when it's not super crazy. I can see their perspective. I'm like, all right, I understand where you're coming from. You're fucking dead wrong, but I get it, right? I've lived long enough at this point. I get why people in like Montana and Wyoming and whatever other state I'll never go to, they're like, well, we can't bring these people here. They're gonna change the culture. They're gonna change what it is to be a Wyoming. Like, all right, I don't even know what that fucking means. It's not a real state. Shout out to the 5 people who listen from there.
They know they don't live in a real state.
Yeah, even those who are like, we gotta get the fuck out. Who
are they kidding?
They're like, oh my god, the internet barely works here. But I get why they are fearful of bringing in a bunch of people that they don't know from different countries. But here's the thing that you have to remember, people of Wyoming, people of Montana, people of the Midwest in general, right? And look, the coast as well. But it's not so much an issue on the coast. It's definitely more of an issue in the middle of America because they have more space, right? Because people don't fucking live there. The diversity, that actually is what made America, dude. Like, it's what makes it interesting. Do you think that you enjoy Tex-Mex food because a bunch of white people came up with it? No. You know why the food's so good in fucking New York? Because everybody, it's a bunch of different ass people there, dude.
Yeah.
And it makes culture and it makes interesting mixtures of people and things like that. Don't fight it. Embrace it. Look, you might learn something new, right? You might learn something new about people. And also, here's the thing. These are asylum seekers. You know how happy you got to be to get the fuck away from like Nicaragua or somewhere like that where the gang violence is insane? These are not people in MS-13. These are people escaping MS-13 going, I just want to have a regular job and live a regular life and do the same thing you want to do, which is take care and raise your kids in a safe place. That's it. Mm-hmm. Look, I know a guy. I personally know a guy who is from El Salvador, right? And it's one of the scariest fucking places on the planet when it comes to gang violence. And he was like, I'm out. He got on a fucking train and he took his ass to America. Right? Like, I know that guy. He's a good dude. And he is one of the most stand-up fucking people I know. Right? And he's going about it like he came through, whatever. Like, not on some fucking regular shit. But he came through. And, now he is, in the court system. And he has been for a number of years trying to, do the right thing. But, all that guy is, he just wants to have a business and pay taxes. Mm-hmm. That's all he wants to do. He's not a bad guy. He doesn't do any dirty shit. He's just not that type of guy.
Well, and that's the other thing that's very funny to me about conservatives pushing back against especially Latin immigrants coming in from Central America and Mexico. Mm-hmm. You guys are fucking wringing your hands about, oh shit, Christianity's losing its hold in America. Bro.
What are you talking about? Here's the fix. Are you fucking kidding me? They're deeply religious. That's why, look, this is the same party that can't get it out of their heads to stop treating black people like shit. Black people are really fucking religious. If you shut the fuck up, you could probably get a lot of them on your side. Because there's a lot of conservative black people.
You used to be able to before you got really racist as a party.
Yeah. Dude, look. My grandfather was conservative. He was a Republican. Well, he's been long dead now, but he was conservative.
Yeah.
But in fairness, that's when the party was way more reasonable, and it wasn't conservative like it is now. They weren't fuck black people. He was a Republican, like Martin Luther King was a Republican at the time too, right? It's not exactly the same party, but the idea the idea of, open borders and all this other stuff, that's just a scare tactic.
It is. And again, there are solutions. Yeah. There are solutions conservatives could come up with. You make the point, I understand why people are afraid of the culture changing. You can have, you can help people assimilate. You talked about, because you're looking at emigrating, that, they have assimilation courses where you're going. Something you learn when you get there. We could do the same thing here. Wouldn't be fucking hard. Also, I'm of the belief, and I have been for a very long time, Spanish should be taught in Americans in
100%
as part of the curriculum.
100%. We handicap the shit out of kids for that shit. It's dumb.
Yeah, stop fucking pretending that you don't need to know Spanish, because again, shitload of people in this country speak Spanish as their primary language. Sorry, but they do.
Go to Florida, dude. Go to Miami. There are parts of Miami that you don't ever have to speak English.
Right.
You just don't.
Guess what? When you go up to fucking Canada, you don't have people that are in fucking Saskatchewan or Alberta being like, I'm not fucking speaking French. Fuck those fucking Quebec assholes. No, they fucking teach French alongside English in Canadian schools, because they're like, hey, we got a shitload of fucking French people that live in this country. You're going to fucking learn how to speak French. God
Yes,
damn
you can
it.
all communicate.
Right.
It's not that difficult. But
It really is.
we do a serious handicap to kids to not do that. If you have kids, teach them a foreign language, for the love of God.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I think this is a trial balloon. I think it's a terrible trial balloon.
I really hope it is, man, because like I said,
really hope they don't reinstitute this.
It's such an unforced error because again,
That's exactly
you're just
right.
going to piss off progressives and more liberal Democrats, and you're never going to get like, it's not like their fucking Republicans are going to fall back in line behind you. I mean, fuck's sake, you're seizing like 96% of the fentanyl that's crossing the border, and somehow Republicans are still out here trying to talk about like it's a bad thing.
Right. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is not something you want to be going into a re-election going, hey, I slammed my predecessor for this. By the way, he's back. And now he can shit on me and say, see, I was right.
Yeah.
Don't give, like, look, a lot of politics, I get it. I'm not in the fucking war room.
I'm only laughing because like I understand the point you're trying to make, but I'm just laughing at the fact that you think that American voters seriously think immigration is an election topic. It's not. They don't.
No, I
it's a scare tactic, but no, it actually fucking.
Yeah, no, I get that. But what I'm saying is, you don't want to ever give him a position where he can go, see, I was right. You said I was wrong, but then you did the same thing I did, right? Because that rings in the same notion to me in the part of my brain that when Hillary Clinton tried to attack Trump, and he goes, yeah, no, I absolutely skirt my taxes and everything else, and you gave me money, or you took my money when you were running for office, right? Like, I was one of your donors, right? So it kind of nullifies, even though he's guilty of doing this shitty thing, if he can tie you into doing the same shitty thing, you can't hit him on it. And you're like,
well, it's the old saying why you don't get into why you don't roll around in the mud with a pig, because you just get dirty and the pig likes it. So
exactly, that's exactly right. So don't give him that, right? You figure out whatever you need to figure out, but do not go back on that. What you should do, I get it. I'm old enough to understand people's perspective without agreeing with it. I get throwing the trial balloon up there. If that's the thing you guys are really thinking about, the reaction has been, get the fuck out of here. So don't do that. Like, nothing wrong with throwing up a trial balloon because you haven't done anything. Guess what? You learned your lesson. Pick option 2. Like, whatever option 2 is, pick that. Do not pick this one. Because again, like you said, all you will do is piss off progressives. You are then going to give him a possible benefit. Nah, fuck that. No, don't do that. Don't do it. Next up. Florida moves.
It's good. Here we can segue into the story. We don't need more immigration to America, Jay, because we can populate our workforce in other ways.
Yes. Well, we're not at the. We'll get to that. I moved the story around.
Florida, I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah. But we'll get there in just a second. Florida moves to revoke hotel's liquor license over Christmas drag show. The Hyatt Regency Miami incurred the wrath of Republican Governor Ron DeSantis over a drag queen Christmas. So the Christmas-themed drag show, alleging that minors had been in attendance, which is against state law, is the reason they're going after their liquor license. I'm sorry, it's against state law? Since when? Like, now? Okay. Was the drag show before the law was signed? Then you can't.
No, didn't he sign his quote unquote stop woke act last year? Like,
was it before
get signed
Christmas?
into law? I'm pretty sure that it was. Now when the law went into effect is a different question. I have no idea when that happened, but I'm pretty sure he had signed the law well in advance.
Yeah,
still incredibly stupid.
The state agency said in a legal document it found evidence that audience members included children appearing less than 16 years old. If you cannot prove that they were less than 16 years old, stop saying that. That's bullshit. They appeared? That's dumb. Get the fuck out of here. Legally, that's bullshit. Like, you can't just be like, well, they appear to be less than 16. Okay, what if they were 17 and they just looked young? No, definitive, my nigga. Like definitive. Like I need actual evidence of that. And by the way, if they were under 16, it's a drag show. It's not a burlesque show. It's not a strip club. By the way, as I think about this, I'm sorry to take umbrage with this company, but I'm going to just use you as an example. If you are a conservative and you're pissed about drag shows and you take your kids to a family restaurant called Hooters, you're a fucking hypocrite. Because that is just as sexually suggestive, actually more sexually suggestive.
I would suggest that
fucking hate that people
that Hooters, if I may be so bold as to use the conservative term they hate, is a gender affirming restaurant.
Gender affirming. I've been to a Hooters. I don't like it. I don't like women like acting like strippers to me to just sell me chicken wings. It's fucking annoying. Also, the wings are not that good. But I don't like. I've seen families in there, and they're like, "It's a family restaurant." I'm like, there's women with their like. There's women wearing like bustier tops, so their tits are popping out like they're out of the top of their turtleneck, right? Like it's not for your little son, dude. It's creepy and weird that you bring him there. just be a bunch of corporate douchebags like every other table, and just bring your corporate douchebag buddies. Oh, bro, chicken wings and boobs. Like, all right, we got it. Can you just go home and get laid? Why are you here? Like, it's fucking weird.
Well, no, they can't. That's why they go to Hooters.
Oh, it's so weird. Hey, honey, do you want chicken wings? Get the fuck away from me. All right, you don't like me, and I don't like you. And why are we pretending? Like, why are we pretending? It's ridiculous. I hate that restaurant sucks. Nothing about it is good. Like if the wings were really good, I'd be like, all right, it's a pass. I like titties too. Duh.
I wasn't expecting you to go on like a fucking 2.5 minute anti-Hooters screen.
No, but my point stands. People call that a family restaurant and they take their kids there. It is a way more sexually suggestive situation than a drag show. Or you could make the argument that it is equally as sexually suggestive, but nobody gives a fuck because you like looking at big titties. I do too. Okay. But if people want to go to a drag show, I don't give a fuck. But I wouldn't take my daughter to a fucking Hooters, even if she was 10 years old. I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. No, I wouldn't. But that's my choice. I'm not telling people they can't take their kids to a fucking Hooters. Under 16, you can. But the hypocrisy of taking your kids to that fucking restaurant and then being like, I can't believe these people are going to a fucking drag show. Come on, Tim, we're going down to look at titties at the local fucking Hooters is bullshit. And you know, most of the guys who go to fucking Hooters are definitely conservative dudes who are like, gotta get these titties and wings on a Friday afternoon. Get the fuck out of here. Yes. Look, I think your restaurant sucks for the food, but I just think it's hypocrisy to go there. That's just all.
If only this were about any kind of principled stance by Republicans instead of it just being
they don't have principled stances on
anything. Like that's really just all it is at the end of the day. We don't have to pretend like it's anything but that.
Yeah, so they are going to try and revoke this local Hyatt's liquor license. I think that's bullshit. I think it's bullshit for the same exact reason that Jon Stewart made the point on his destruction of that one Republican state senator. It's free speech.
Mm-hmm.
Drag shows are free speech. They fall under free speech. So you telling us that a person who is 16 years of age or less than 16 years of age can't go, that's up to their parents. It's free speech. Now, if you said, hey, man, you can't bring your kid into a strip club, that's free speech. Well, that's an adult venue, and it's labeled as an adult venue. The Hyatt Regency is not labeled as an adult venue, nor was this event labeled as an adult-only venue.
Well, and here's the other problem is that, so your goal when you are punishing this hotel is to stop them from having drag shows at their hotel, I guess.
Right.
How does removing their liquor license accomplish that exactly, other than by just showing them that there's a punitive consequence to, thumbing their nose at your law that you fucking have in your state? And I'm using air quotes when I fucking say that.
Right.
That's not technically a deterrent. Like if I fucking lost my liquor license at this hotel, I'd be like, we having drag shows every fucking day. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I'd be like, Hyatt Regency, drag show fucking headquarters. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like, if I'm the manager of that hotel, I'm doing a commercial. Hey, are you a dude who likes dressing like a woman and like, reading stories to kids? Come on down to the local Regency, Hyatt Regency. We're fucking doing this. Drag shows all day, 50% off hotel rooms. I don't give a fuck. Fuck you, Ron DeSantis. Like, commercial done. Like, to me, it's ridiculous. And again, you don't actually give a fuck about kids. You don't. And look, here's how I know. Drag shows have existed since forever. And people have been taking their kids.
Fucking time.
Yeah. You're just now. So suddenly you've learned about drag shows? No. You just, it's wokeism. It's groomer. It's socialism. It's the buzzword of the moment. That's all it is. That's all it is. Guess what? Nobody gives a fuck.
Well, and like you said about DeSantis earlier, he's doing what he does best. He's punching down. Like, because that's all he knows how to do.
That's all he knows how to do. And look, if you're a Republican and you're like, hey, man, I am really against kids going to drag shows. Okay. Don't take your kid to a drag show. That's it.
Yeah.
Just don't take your kid to a drag show. No one is forcing kids who don't want to go to a drag show to go to a drag show. There's no one, like, this is not a thing that, like, you just drag little Johnny. He's like, drag is so bad. And they're like dragging him in, like, look at that woman. Look at her. She's gyrating. You love it. And he's like, oh God. Like, that's not happening. These drag queens are reading stories to kids. And look, they dress in flamboyant, I would argue, even ridiculous outfits. But it's flamboyance for kids. It's flamboyance because that's what they want to do. I like where I live, there hasn't been like a drag that I know of. I don't really like Google drag show children's hour. I'm not against it, but like if there was one, like my daughter loves like princesses and shit like that. Like if there was like, hey, drag show fucking princess, fucking story time, I'd take her. I don't give a fuck. I'm not worried about, like, and if I'm there, like, I'm not dropping her off and leaving. She's 3. And if I'm there and they're like, hey, watch me gyrate my Johnson in this dress. And I'm like, all right, then it's time for me to go. This is not for me. But I suspect that that's not happening at the local library. Like, it's just not happening. So it's cool. Also, I don't know what conservatives are worried about. Last time I checked, the only dudes in dresses messing with kids are not drag queens.
That's true.
Yeah, they wear dresses and funny hats, but they're not from the drag show. They're at your local fucking church. Okay, so get the fuck out of here. But this is, again, Ron DeSantis having to punch down because ultimately Ron DeSantis is a fucking punk ass bitch. Like he is.
Wait, did you pay your DeSantis blogger fee to be able to say that?
I didn't, and I refuse. I will not. I will not.
I feel like it's gonna be a running bit on the show. Like how many consecutive weeks can we call Ron DeSantis a punk ass bitch on this program? The answer might surprise you.
It won't surprise me. In the words of Paul Mooney, to paraphrase Paul Mooney, calling Ron DeSantis a punk ass bitch keeps my teeth white. I do it every morning. Fuck out of here. Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.